Well, thank you, Mr Deputy Speaker. Well, Mr Deputy Speaker, in opposition, we knew that it was bad, but I've got to tell you, it's even worse than we could have imagined, Mr Deputy Speaker. When we came in November, when we inherited the government's books, the red ink and the cost overruns and the unbudgeted failures of the Labor Party were in every single brief that I read, Mr Deputy Speaker. And what we've seen as we've opened those books for Queenslanders so they can see the true state of the budget, so we're letting the sunshine in. I take the interjection from the member for Lockyer. We are being open and transparent, and we are uncovering Labor's deception. A deception that tried to hide the cost of Cross River Rail, $17 billion. A deception to hide the cost of Labor's Q-Trip roads and transport infrastructure projects, $6.7 billion extra than Labor said they were going to cost. Mr Speaker, it's just the start. Mr Deputy Speaker, it is just the start of Labor's economic mismanagement. For the Department of Transport and Main Roads, the unforeseen expenditure in 2023-2024 is $212 million, but that's on top of $1.1 billion provided to the department in other appropriations bills outside of the budget. Mr Deputy Speaker, these supplementary appropriations seek about $9 billion in additional funding that those opposite conveniently forgot to provision for. Now, part of it is because they forgot to provision. The other part is they failed to deliver, Mr Deputy Speaker. Whether it's roads or whether it's for the detention centre that's being built in the Lockyer Valley, those opposite were not able to deliver projects on time or on budget, and as a consequence, Queenslanders have seen those projects delayed. We're paying more for them because of Labor's mismanagement. Mr Deputy Speaker, Labor have never been able to keep a budget, not once. They have demonstrated a willful disregard for taxpayers' money from the day they walked into this House before my time in this place in 2015, and it's Queenslanders that pay the price. I would say that it was the former Treasurer, Shadow Minister Dick, who failed to keep the budget in order, but the truth is it happened long before he came along. When Jackie Trad's long shadow cast across this place, the budget was in a similar state of disrepair, and it's only got worse in the entire time. And I take the injection for the member for Southern Downs. She still casts a shadow in this place as the puppet master for the current shadow cabinet, the member for Waterford and the opposition leader, Jackie Trad, pulling the strings. But it is that legacy of mismanagement that we are trying to rectify now that we have a fresh start for Queensland in the Christopher Foley LNP government. Mr Speaker, Mr Deputy Speaker, what we saw from those opposite over the entire time they were in government, nearly 10 years, was a focus on announcements, but they'd forget about the follow-up. So they're all about the photo op up front, but they forget about the follow-up. And the Olympics is the case in point. 3 years, 7 months down the track, we've still got nothing to show. That's Labor's record and that's Labor's legacy. And the budget reflects that. The budget reflects that. Net debt never been higher as a consequence of the Labor Party. We've had a rating outlook downgrade as a consequence of the Labor Party's economic mismanagement. And Queenslanders deserve better. It means we have less capacity to fund the things we need to fund here in Queensland. And we see such hollow rhetoric time and time again from those opposite. Let's take 50-cent fares, for example. The LNP's permanent 50-cent fares, a great initiative that we've been proud to fund through the budget process. Now, the Labor Party like to claim credit for this great LNP initiative, but the truth is, when they had the opportunity to make 50-cent fares permanent for the 10 years that they were in government, they scribbed it. They never did it once. In fact, they did a 6-month trial, no money to continue it afterwards, because they did not have the courage of their convictions to back in a worthy cost of living initiative that is making life better for Queensland commuters. We've taken on that 50-cent fare initiative and we have made it permanent because we said we would, and we recognise that it is providing cost of living relief for every single Queenslander. Mr Deputy Speaker, the last budget, Labor's last budget, now this is the last budget update for Labor, but the budget back in June, it was just a typical Labor budget of deficit and deception. And many Queenslanders are rightly asking, and I note the member for Hinchinbrook spoke about the local roads that still need to be upgraded, or the lack of maintenance as drawn out by the member for Gregory. Frequent and reliable public transport. Labor's failure to manage the budget has real consequences for Queenslanders every single day. And the reason Queenslanders are waiting for those critical services is because the budget's blown. We've got huge delays and overspends. Gold Coast Light Rail Stage 3. Just the most recent blowout's $330 million because of the CFMEU tax. And that's only 12 months after the last blowout, which has seen the cost more than double from what Labor said it would. Cross River Rail, started as 5.4, now 17. Said it was going to be finished in 2024, likely 2029. That's Labor's record. Mr. Deputy Speaker, the reason Labor couldn't manage a budget is because they're hopelessly beholden to organisations like the CFMEU. The CFMEU's reign over the former government had a cost to Queenslanders every single day, and I know that the member for Bancroft was formerly a member of the CFMEU. I don't think he is anymore. But that tells you everything you need to know about the former Labor government, Mr. Deputy Speaker. Members of Parliament installed by the CFMEU and they ran roughshod over the Queensland budget as a consequence. We've taken strong action to ensure that the stranglehold of the CFMEU over the former government is stopped. I did say all through the chair, Mr. Deputy Speaker.
You're on thin ice there, member for Bundoora.
Don't get me on to Master Fisherman, Mr. Deputy Speaker. You don't want me to go there. Mr. Deputy Speaker, we took strong action in pausing BPIC, the CFMEU tax, because it's destroying productivity on Queensland job sites, and we respect Queensland taxpayers' money, and we will continue to take strong action to ensure that productivity is restored in Queensland, that projects are delivered on time and on budget. And we want to ensure tradies have good conditions and are paid well to complete road and transport infrastructure across Queensland. But the key word there is complete. And that's the bit that's been missing for far too long here in Queensland. Labor like to announce projects, but they never follow up and they never actually deliver, Mr. Speaker. We won't just be announcing projects or planning projects. We will start projects and we will finish them, Mr. Speaker, because ultimately that's what this is about. It's not about the photo op, it's about delivering the outcome for Queenslanders. And budgets are just a reflection of the government's priorities, Mr. Deputy Speaker. And Labor for too long have run roughshod over Queensland taxpayers' money with the wrong priorities. We've got the right priorities. We'll deliver a fresh start for Queensland, and we're focused on delivering respect for taxpayers' money. Mr. Speaker, we've been left with a budget mess, but we will move forward in a mature, responsible, systematic way to get Queensland back on track. I've got a clear focus on delivering projects on time and on budget, and I welcome that responsibility that the Premier has entrusted me with, an approach that was not evident in the ministers of the former government. Mr. Deputy Speaker, we'll work with all levels of government to improve infrastructure and services right across the state. We've already proven that by securing an 80-20 funding split with the federal government on a $9 billion package of road upgrades on the Bruce Highway. And it is a shame on those opposite that they abrogated their responsibility for fighting for Queensland when they decided to cave in to their Labor colleagues federally and accept 50-50 funding on federal roads. We didn't accept the same situation, and we have delivered 80-20 funding on the Bruce Highway in the first 100 days of government, Mr. Speaker. And it will be remiss of me, Mr. Deputy Speaker, not to talk about the federal government's attack on Queensland today in slashing the GST distribution that Queensland will receive. This will make it harder for Queenslanders and for the Queensland government to deliver the services that Queensland needs. $5 billion over the forward estimates is what Queensland has been robbed today. We've been robbed of it by the Labor Party federally, and those opposite have been silent on it. So my advice to those opposite is pick up the phone to Albo. I can assure you that I will be raising this with my federal counterpart, Catherine King, and I will be telling her in no uncertain terms that we will not accept Queensland not getting its fair share, just as I did when we were fighting for 80-20 funding for the Bruce Highway. And every single member opposite needs to look their constituents in the face and say that they fought for Queensland's fair share. Robbing Queensland of $5 billion in the middle of a cost of living crisis, when we're trying to do more with less, is simply unacceptable, and Queenslanders deserve better, Mr. Speaker. And I'm sure Queenslanders will pass judgment on that when they go to the ballot box federally in a couple of weeks' time. Mr. Speaker, we're focused on delivering mature, responsible and sensible government. We will restore respect for taxpayers' dollars. We will manage the budget in a responsible way. Unlike those opposite, with the right priorities, and I look forward to being a member of the Chris Foley government delivering for every single Queenslander.